Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. What a great episode. But as always, before I get into my review, if you're new to this channel, hello and welcome. I summarize and review the latest Sanchal Kapımı episode, say what I liked, what I didn't like, what I think might happen next. If you like these kinds of videos, like, comment, share, but most importantly subscribe so we can meet on a weekly basis. As always, let's talk a little bit about the other storylines before we get into the Eda and Serkan storyline. First we have Erdem and Fifi. Fifi wants to confront Erdem and wants to talk to him. He plays really hard. You don't affect me, kind of. But every time after Fifi walks away, he's like, oh my god, oh god, thank god I didn't faint. Like, he's so overwhelmed whenever she is there, and she even told him let's meet up at Eda's place at 8, but he stood her up, and then the next day she confronts him and he's like, well, now you know what it feels like to be rejected, blah blah blah. And she's like, okay, we're even now. So she really didn't like that, and I think this kind of intrigued her, so I'm really interested to see how they will evolve. Then we have Engin and Pırıl. Engin is kind of desperate, wanting to be close to Pırıl. She's very focused on work, and he doesn't really like that because she's like, okay, just leave me alone, I need to work, blah blah blah. Then he calls her to his office, wants to be alone with her. She's like, no, everybody's watching, and he's like, okay, just cry so he can hug her, so he has a reason to be close to her, to touch her. And it was so funny because people were watching them, and then Pırıl is like, okay, I need to go, blah blah blah, walks off, and he's like, oh, she's very stressed, kind of justifying his actions. It was hilarious. On the Selin and Ferit front, there's nothing really new. She still doesn't like him working there. There's nothing really major happening. She just confronted Serkan why he breaks girls' hearts, because he's so cold-hearted, how can he be like that, blah blah blah. Because she found out from Erdem that Serkan broke up with Eda, and at first I was like, ooh, she's intrigued. Now she has no obstacle between her and Serkan. But then she confronted him, and I was like, well, maybe she's on Eda's side because she knows how it feels to be with Serkan and then him breaking up with you. So I don't know, is she kind of team Eda? We don't know, we still have to see. At the moment, I don't think she will make a move. She's still very focused on Ceren and Ferit. Then we have Aydan and Alptekin. Alptekin is trying to talk to Serkan, but Serkan is like, no, I don't want to talk to you. I don't want anything to do with you, blah blah blah. Even tells him that he will move out. And this is something that Alptekin was dreading all along, because now he's found this new closeness to his son, and suddenly, just because of a past mistake, and he tries to make it up to him. Aydan even tells him, you need to regain your son's trust, and he tries to do that by going to Ayfer, telling her the truth, and he's not really able to do that. He's only apologizing for Serkan's behavior and for breaking Eda's heart, but he couldn't bring himself to really tell the truth about the accident. And as I said in my previous reviews, they will drag this secret for longer. Aydan, on the other hand, is trying to make sure that Serkan is feeling alright, and he's like, no, I don't want to make peace with Alptekin, blah blah blah, I will move out. And she's really in shock because now her safe place is slightly crumbling. Then we also have Seyfi kind of spying in Art Life, because Aydan really wants to know what's going on around there, because Pırıl informed her that Eda is back working, but now with Efe. And Aydan is kind of happy because that means that Serkan can see Eda and he won't really lose his mind. What is Eda doing? Where is she? Blah blah blah. Because Serkan told Seyfi to collect all of Eda's things, put them in a box. Even told Seyfi to put the globe he got from her in the box, and also put a picture they took at their engagement party in the box, because he was looking at it when Seyfi came with the box. Anyways, Aydan sent Seyfi there to give the box to Eda, and that way she can kind of spy on the people there and on her and who this Efe guy is, because she doesn't know how he looks, blah blah blah. Seyfi goes there, gives the box to Eda. Serkan is kind of watching them. Eda is like, okay, so he doesn't want anything to do with me, and that there's no trace left in his house. So she takes the box, goes outside and throws it in the bin, and Serkan is watching her. She sees him watching and is like, and goes inside. Anyway, Seyfi was FaceTiming Aydan. Aydan was telling him, well, go inside and let me see everything. And then he shows Efem. She's like, oh, he looks good. And then she's like, oh, the camera doesn't work. Seyfi turns the phone around, looks at the camera. The camera starts working again. Efem notices it, sees Aydan, says hello. Serkan comes. Oh my god, it was so chaotic. Anyways, Efem then tells Aydan that she looks very young. It was just hilarious. And then Seyfi trying to save the moment, being like, see, everybody's working. It was just hilarious. Then we also have the Ayfer Eda storyline. So Eda and Ayfer are kind of arranging flowers. Ayfer tells Eda to look in her phone because there's the address where they should deliver it. Eda takes Ayfer's phone, sees the messages to the old lady, is like, how can you betray me like this? Blah blah blah, gets really angry and doesn't talk to Ayfer anymore. Tries to ignore her, but then when Eda gets the scholarship at the Turkish university back, she's really happy, and that's when Fifi and Jaran tell her that Ayfer is actually having money problems and that the flower shop isn't doing really great. So that's why Ayfer called the old lady, even though she hates the old lady, just so Eda can continue her education. That's when Eda feels very, very bad for her and doesn't really know how to apologize. She does that by cooking, and they then make up. One idea that I had while watching it. So Ayfer is having trouble with her flower shop and Eda is working on this ecological project. I think that Ayfer will work with them and kind of be the source of plants and flowers and everything, and that way she will get the money that she needs for the flower shop, not to get bankrupt. That's just my thought, and yeah. I think we can move on to the Eda and Serkan storyline. So the episode starts with Eda calling Fifi to tell her everything that happened. Jaran is also there. Then there is this back and forth between Serkan's side talking to Engin and Eda's side talking to Fifi and Jaran. Both of them are blaming themselves, kind of. As always, when they show both sides, they're kind of saying the same, but from a different perspective. Serkan's side, we already saw that in the trailer. On the other side, Fifi is kind of motivating and pushing Eda to go to Serkan and tell him her peace of mind while Eda is going there. Serkan is looking at the stars, especially the one he bought for Eda, and says goodbye to the star. Eda comes, then confronts him, what we already saw in the trailer. Then she walks away, is kind of overwhelmed by this whole situation. Aydan comes, apologizes for everything, and I do think that she still thinks that Serkan told her the truth and not just break up with her, and I think that's what she's apologizing for. And then Eda is asking her, when will this pain go away, blah blah blah, and Aydan says, well, with time. So you can really see this motherly instinct kick in for Aydan towards Eda. So I think that apology was really sincere from Aydan's side. As I already said, Serkan told Seyfi that he should pack all of Eda's belongings in a box and give it back to her. On the other side, we have Eda shooting darts at Serkan's picture, and the girls are kind of suggesting let's burn everything from him, and she's like, no, I don't want to burn anything, I'm not afraid of him, blah blah blah. So she's keeping everything from him. That also means the ring, because later in the episode Serkan is kind of questioning Eda, oh, you're still wearing the ring, and she's like, well, your mother told me that gifts shouldn't be given back, and it also reminds me what a horrible person you are. And then she looks at Serkan's ring and she's like, well, you're still wearing it, and he's like, well, it keeps the women away so I'm not distracted from work. And I was like, oh my god, Serkan, how petty can you be? Seriously, like, nobody is distracting you from work except for yourself spying on Eda and looking if she's near Efe or not. Then we see Eda running by the seaside, Efe calling her, offering her a ride home because he needs to talk to her, blah blah blah. But she's like very standoffish. Then we see them at Eda's place, her not really wanting to talk about Serkan, and also telling Efe that she quit her job, that because she broke up up with Serkan, she's not working with Art Life anymore, and that's when he offers her a job to work for him. Even tells her what she would get paid, and she likes that because it would help her pay her scholarship, because she kind of managed to get the headmaster, whatever, of the university to grant her to pay the fee in installments. And she also managed that because she mentioned that she's working for Efe or with Efe. Then we see Engin desperately trying to convince Serkan to take a vacation because he's too work focused, or he just needs some time off to relax after the breakup. He's like, no, I don't need a vacation, blah blah blah, because now that Eda is gone, she's like out of sight, out of mind. But right then Efe and Eda come back, and that's when Efe announces that Eda will be working with him. Serkan doesn't like it one bit, but then says to Eda, well, it's no problem, you will be gone in 2 months, blah blah blah. And she's like, no, I'm not going back to Italy. So that means that she will study in Istanbul. And then Serkan is kind of questioning her why, blah blah blah, and she's like, well, this is personal, blah blah blah. So they have a little face off, and that wasn't the only one, because one time at the bar she came for coffee or something like that, and Serkan was having a really hard time trying to do small talk, and she's like, I don't care what you're saying, and just walks off. And then what I also thought was really funny, when Eda, Fifi and Ceren walked into Art Life, and Engin, Serkan and Erdem were walking down the stairs, and then the girls just walked different directions and didn't even look at the guys. And Erdem was like, well, I'm hoping that Fifi will start working here so he can be close to her. And Serkan didn't like that Eda was kind of ignoring him. Then there's this meeting about this ecological project, whatever. Serkan says that he changed his mind, he wants to change everything, blah blah blah, and in the end they have to compromise. So they have two teams, Team Serkan, Team Efe, trying to come up with their plans, and the customer has to decide which project he likes best. While everybody is working on their project, Serkan is kind of spying on Eda and Efe, trying to see if they're getting too close to each other. But what I saw in this episode is also when Efe goes to Eda's place a second time, because Ayfer invites him in for tea and gives him some dumplings or whatever, something to eat, and she says it's from where we are, and I think it's Magden or something like that, and he's like, oh, I'm from there too. So there is something fishy about Efe, and this is kind of the connection to Eda's grandmother, and I'm really interested to see what else we will find out about Efe. So what I saw in this episode is that he likes her as a friend and on a professional basis, so I didn't really see him make a move, kind of, because when they were driving to that person to kind of present their plans and the person to decide which plan to take, Efe offered to drive Eda, but Serkan got out of Art Life before Eda, told Efe that he shouldn't wait because Eda needed to do something inside and it will take longer, and he can drive away because he will, so Serkan will drive Eda to that place. And Efe was like, okay, and drove off. So if he really liked her on a romantic level, I think that he would have insisted on staying and driving Eda. But as Efe is driving off, Eda comes out and she's like, where is he driving? And it was so funny because Serkan was like, Efe left, but Serkan is here. I laughed so much because he was so proud of himself. But she's like, well, I'm going to take the taxi, and he's like, well, you're not getting a taxi at this hour, blah blah blah, I can take you. In the end, they drive there together. She's trying to prepare for the presentation, he's trying to help her, give her some tips. She doesn't like that. He gets really frustrated. Then they have this fight again. When they arrive at this person's estate, I thought at first that they were at Serkan's place because it really looked like that because of the stables. Anyways, Eda is the first one to present their plan. Then there's Serkan, and it turns out that Serkan's plan was for the customer to want to merge those plans together, so he has to work with Eda. I thought it was a really smart move. Eda didn't really like that, but in the end she had to accept it. Oh, well, I completely forgot was there was a moment when Ferit was in Serkan's office because Serkan was trying to get his mind off Eda, so he did all the work work, gave the financial whatever to Ferit. He was really amazed that Serkan did it, and then Serkan is kind of asking Ferit what he thinks about Efe, and then they kind of move to the topic why Serkan didn't want Ferit to marry Selin, and it was really awkward. But at the same time I'm like, okay, now Ferit knows that Serkan wasn't in love with Selin and that the feelings were really one-sided, so only from Selin and not from Serkan. And yeah, then there is also this scene where we see Eda and Serkan working, so Eda at home, Serkan in the office, and Eda calling Serkan for no apparent reason, just trying to find a reason while she's calling him, why she called him. It was really, why did you do that? But you could really see that she was missing him and she just really wanted to talk to him. And that's also the scene where Serkan is taking the flower that he has on his desk in this glass bowl thing, whatever, and he puts it behind the books so he doesn't see them anymore, because everything that reminds him of Eda is hurting him. That's also when Efe is playing billiard at the office and Serkan and him are having kind of who is more manly, who's more powerful, kind of a power play. And that's when Efe tells Serkan that he's happy to compete against Serkan and that Eda is helping him, and Serkan is just like, you're going to lose, blah blah blah. Then we also have Serkan reading a book, but what he was reading really fit their situation and his feelings especially, and in the book was also a picture of them. Then after the presentation, Efe has this idea to go on a motivational hike or something, because now that they're working together they need to find some motivation, blah blah blah. And Serkan is like, well, I don't need this, I can work in any condition. But then Engin is like, well, everybody can go except for Serkan because he doesn't need to, blah blah blah. They're going to this hiking site. Who appears? Serkan. His explanation is, I didn't want to leave you all alone because you're all together here and I don't want to be a party pooper, but I don't believe in this, blah blah blah. And I was like, sure, you just don't want to see Eda near Efe. So this whole game, whatever, they needed to split up into groups. So it was kind of Efe's side and Serkan's side, and both groups needed a captain, and I expected it to be like Efe and Serkan, but it was actually Serkan and Eda, but Eda also took Efe, and then they had to kind of drive together. So one person from each group, one was the driver, the other one was the navigator, and they were picked out from a bowl. So it was just by chance, and the picks were Efe and Selin and Serkan and Eda. I don't know if it was kind of a foreshadowing that in the end Efe will end up with Selin. I mean, I wouldn't mind. At first, Eda was like, no, I'm not going to drive with Serkan, blah blah blah. He's like, well, are you scared, blah blah blah. Anyway, she's like, no, under one condition, I will drive with you when I am allowed to drive. So they go on this dirt road, try to pass Selin and Efe, so there's this kind of fight, who's first, who's second. Then Eda takes some weird turn, so she goes on a different road and towards a cliff. Serkan gets more and more scared. She's like, well, I'm not going to stop as long as you're not apologizing for everything you've done to me, blah blah blah. And then he's like, stop, okay, I apologize, I'm sorry. And then she stops. They go out. Eda is like, well, you wouldn't have apologized if you weren't afraid that you would die. And he's like, what are you talking about? What if something happened to you? So once again, he cares more for her, and she sees that, and she's like, does it really matter? And that's when Efe and Selin come and they switch partners. So Eda is going with Efe and Selin is going with Serkan. Then we see them all sitting together except for Eda because she's gone. They're all sitting at the table, and that coach, whatever, is telling them, well, you can go if you want because I will send you the results, blah blah blah, whatever. Serkan is like, where's Eda? Efe tells them that Eda said she wants to go for a walk because she knows the surroundings apparently. Everybody is alarmed, goes out to look for Eda, and while the whole group is going one direction, Serkan is going a different one. Then he's screaming after her and you can really hear his desperation. And then there's this little hill he climbs up and we got a nice booty shot, and that's when he finds her in this hole. So So one thing I didn't quite like is who on earth falls in a hole that beautifully? I mean, seriously, who falls like that as if she walked backwards and just fell? Because she was lying there like this. And if you fall in a hole, wouldn't you fall like this? Like, I don't know. If it helps the storyline and everything, why not? But they could have done it more realistically, in my opinion. Maybe smudge some mud on her face or some leaves in her hair or something like that, just to make it appear that she really fell down the hole and not just lay there because she wants to. Anyways, as soon as he sees her, he's really trying to get to her, trying to make sure that she's okay, and that's the end. So there's no trailer out as of me filming this video now. I can only presume what might happen. So I do think that maybe because of this incident, Serkan will be more protective over Eda and her, maybe letting him a little bit closer. I don't know what else to say, because it's quite hard to say anything or predict anything without a trailer, because the team is kind of a little bit behind schedule, because Melek, so the actress who plays Melek, was tested positive, so they had to stop productions for 3 days to see if everybody is safe. So I think the new trailer will be out before I will put this video up. So yeah, I'm really sorry I can't say anything more. I really do hope that we will get a little bit more information about Efe's background, and maybe he will open up a little bit to Eda while working. That will be quite interesting. I'm really interested to also see how this whole dynamic will work out, Efe, Serkan and Eda working together. Yeah, I think that's all I can say. I'm really sorry. I hope I said everything. I hope I didn't forget anything. If I did, I'm really sorry. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. It will really mean a lot to me. Leave me a comment down below what your thoughts are on this amazing episode. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Ring that bell to be notified whenever I post something, and I will see you next time. Bye!